Hi, my name is Don Kensel, and I've been doing toilet repairs and installations for over 30 years. And what I want to do tonight with you in this video is to show you how to do two typical common repairs for a household toilet. How to replace a flapper valve and how to replace a fill valve. But what I also want to do with you is share with you some recommendations that I've picked up in the many years I've spent doing plumbing repairs. Let's look at the recommendations. The first recommendation I have for a homeowner and a newcomer is to begin any toilet, any plumbing job as early as possible in the day as you can. Why? Because if you begin having trouble by 10 a.m., you have it fixable by noon or by 1 p.m. rather than having trouble at 5, 6 p.m. and you're calling a plumber in the evening hours. Also, if you have another toilet in the house, it's very, very helpful for you to then have that pressure taken off you. Can you work without interruption? Can you get your family, your wife, your children, your roommate away from you from bothering you to use the one toilet you have in your house? And lastly, which is very, very important, when will I know how to stop and when to get help? More importantly, also, is to know how to follow proper work habits when you do this kind of work. The first thing I want to show you and remind you is that things that can break might break. I have here a toilet tank lid, and I have here a wrench. This wrench would never belong in a bathroom, but you can tell, very easy to break a toilet tank lid. So, but no, when you take the toilet tank lid off, this fake toilet tank, take this and hide it under the bed, in a room, on a carpet someplace. By the way, I plan to show these recommendations as we go through the video, like I just showed that first rule with the toilet tank lid. Next thing is to have the right tools ready. We're going to do two kinds of repairs. Each repair requires its own sets of tools. The third rule is have all the needed parts ready. You will need tools and parts for each job. The next thing is to work in sequence. If you work out of sequence, you run the risk of causing a flood, causing a bath to yourself, causing other kind of trouble. So work within sequence. Also, we're working with a lot of plastic parts today, and plastic parts can get buggered on the threaded ends, making them both useless. So when you put these parts together, put them together very, very carefully. I will show that. The next thing to do is don't trust water valves. As you probably may know, turning to the right tightens. Turning to the left loosens a water valve. However, from my experience, you can turn valves to the right forever. They will turn off or they'll keep spinning and the valve will not close. So don't trust a valve even if it looks like it's turned off. The next two is take the old to get new, same for same. When you go shopping for a flapper, for example, if you have one that looks like this, you have to get this one. You don't get this type. Another rule that I would suggest is buy more and get extra parts. So for example, if you need to go and get supply tubes and you don't know which one you need, I would buy several. And that way you're more likely than not to have the proper supply tube available when you have to do the actual repair. And the last thing I would suggest doing is examine your purchases before you pay for them. We're going to open a box later in the show to do the fill valve job. This one's been opened. I would never buy an open box because it may have parts missing from it. So never buy an open box at a store. Okay, let's move to the first repair. The first repair is going to be to replace, not repair, the flapper valve. When do you know you need to replace the flapper? What happens with a flapper is, as they remain and are in contact with water, they start warping. And as they warp, they curl. And as they curl, water slides underneath them. And it goes out of the tank, which the ball's up high, the tank's full of water. So the water leaks out, the ball goes down, and next thing you know, the toilet recharges, refills. It recharges, refills on a once a half hour basis, once an hour basis, and will drive you crazy, will ruin your night's sleep. So you know you need to replace the flapper. What you want to do, first of all, is turn the water off. Righty-tighty, turn the valve that's behind the toilet on the floor, or against the back walls on the floor or on the wall. Turn it to the right and turn it off. But after I've turned it off, I go back to the fill valve, the fill lever, and I lift it to see if water's coming into the tank. If water still is coming into the tank, that valve is not holding. That valve is not stopping the water. Now at this point, I could stop the entire repair and say I can't do anything because I can't turn the water off coming into the toilet. If you want to be a little more adventuresome, what you could do is have handy your new flapper. And this, by the way, is very similar to the one that's on here. They come these days like this, and you would cut this off and cut this off, and then the ears, the holes of these two, will look very similar to this one. So if the water's coming into the tank, you can quickly take this off. Water will be running through, water will be coming up in there. It's not going to go anywhere, it's all captured in the tank. You take this one off. This one's now been cut out, so it looks kind of like this one now because I've cut that one to look like this. I reach into the tank, I flip this one on, make sure I put it over top of these two little ears on here. I usually don't fix toilets from behind, so please give me a little slack. Speaking of slack, you only want to have a little bit of it when you put these chains on, so that when you fill the toilet again by pulling the lever, the flapper comes all the way up and allows maximum time for as much water to go out as possible. Now, as I said, I could have had the valve on all the time, but luckily, mostly these valves will shut off for you. Okay, you want to be sure this chain has no extra chain, that the chain might slip under here and give you the same problem you just solved, which is having water slip through the flapper valve into the tank. Okay, you've done the flapper job, okay? But again, make sure when you go shopping, you do same to same. Do not buy this one. This one is for a special toilet that you don't, if you have the toilet, this is the one you buy. Okay, what you can also then do to trim the extra chain away is use these little nippers, these little wire cutters, to cut away the chain, to kind of make sure you don't have any extra getting in trouble. The next repair I want to do with you is a fill valve repair. A little more involved, but again, similar procedure. First thing we want to do is turn off the water. Turn it to the right. I probably have it already turned off from just my demonstration. Make sure, hold it to the right. Go back, check the valve, make sure it's stopped. If it doesn't stop, here you cannot go any further, unless you want to stop the water someplace else. If this valve doesn't stop the water from coming into the toilet tank, you will not be able to replace the fill valve. If you want to get more adventuresome, you then could go to the front wall of your house, outside the front wall, and find the water valve that comes in from this water meter, and turn that one off. Come back to the tank, flip the lever. Does the water stop now? Okay, this stops the water, that one doesn't, the water stopped, you can proceed. So it's a matter of how deep in this job you want to get, and do you want to get help, or do you want to do to make your choice? So first thing we want to do, the water is off. We want to lift the flapper, let as much water, this residual water, fall out into the tank, into the bowl. The bowl is down there. Take knotted glass, scoop out as much water into the bowl as you can. Use a sponge to mop up as much water as you can. Always have nice towels, old beat up towels handy, so that when you remove the fill valve, you will be able to catch any leftover water. We're now going to disconnect the supply tube that goes up from the valve to the flapper. There's a nut underneath that holds the fill valve to the underside of the toilet tank. Take this nut off. Same left, right, red's on, off combination. And take this up and throw it away. You then, of course, have assembled the tools and parts you need. So you're going to need, we've decided to replace the fill valve hose and the fill valve. So we have some maybe replacement tubes here, and we need to have the tools for that. Well, we have these two tools we use already, and you may at some point want to tighten this nut underneath with a pair of pliers when you reinstall the fill valve. Open the fill valve. Once again, don't buy open boxes, and you should have 4 things inside the box. common brand, very popular. And this guy uses this float and tank. The float goes up, turns the water off in here. This comes down, water lets in. So you have this little part set, you have instructions, and this is something we're going to use this a little bit of a, save some time. Okay, we take the fill valve, hold the gray top, twist the bottom to expand the length of the fill valve. I've painted this line white so you can see when I install it that the line should be at or above the top of this refill tube. Keep twisting this. If you twist it too much, you can twist it back down. Get it to the right height. It's a little bit above, good enough. Okay. You then will take this apart. When you take this apart, you will have this washer will be separated from this washer. This is the washer that's taken apart. Put that on the shank of the fill valve. Put the fill valve in. Put the same nut that you had before. Have a couple spares. Always cover spares. And tighten the nut down. Now before I tighten it, I want to, obviously you're saying, gee, this is too high. This may need to come down a little bit. And also, remember, the toilet tank lid has a little cave in for it, so it'll provide some space for this guy to sit in. To tighten this how I do it is I put pressure on the top of the fill valve while I tighten the nut to give pressure on the fitting. You want to check your work. You can pour a little water in the tank from the sink. The flapper ain't letting water out. You'll let water in. Water will come around here. You look underneath. Is water dripping out from under here? No. This is tight enough. Okay. Check your work. You're now going to install a new fill tube. Let's assume this is bad. We're going to go to the store and we're going to look, and as you know, there's rows and different types of fill tubes. You will see many that look like this. This is for a sink or for a faucet. These are not for toilets. Every toilet connector tube has these strange, large heads, often plastic. Notice I picked this one off the tube, off the shelf. It looks kind of close. Same here. It's different at this end. Notice the different size endings of these two. And notice also, this one is missing a washer inside it. So when you buy any of these parts at the stores, make sure that both ends of these tubes have washers in them. If there's no washer, you will be stuck. You'll be tightening this nut forever, and it will still leak out water. So let's assume we found this is the replacement one. It has a washer here. There's a washer here. It's the same size here as the same size here. So I'm in business. I brought this to the store. You don't have to Teflon tape these threads. If you want to, if you're worried about that, you can take some Teflon tape out at this point and put some tape on the bottom threads of the fill valve. Don't have to. Plastic also is very nice to be self-sealing. Tighten this top on top of the, underneath the fill valve. Hold the fill valve so you put torque on it. It doesn't come apart. Reattach this. These are fine threads here. You don't need to tape these threads. You can tape these threads if you want to, if it makes you feel good. 1 minute. And tighten it with a wrench. Do this, and that's it. You can now adjust the water level by using this tightener, this lifter here, and the fill valve has been replaced. I think you've hopefully seen a good demonstration of how these do these two repairs. Work carefully, get help, and thank you very much.